So you started your first business very young. Can you tell us how that came about?
Sure. Well, I was intrigued with the internet. I was one of the few teenagers that loved CNBC. So kind of the dot-com euphoria really got wind of me. And I looked at the ad market, in its infancy, and created a very basic product around performance-based advertising. And one thing led to another, to dropping out of high school, to starting it full time, to 2 years later selling it for $40 million.
And dropping out of high school, how did your family feel about that? Can you take us back to that period when you had to approach your father? And
Sure. Well, my father and mom had kind of decided my brother was the smarter one, so he loved math, so he was by default the engineer of the family, and I was, not so smart, but they figured I had two options, and if I wasn't good at math, I'd be the doctor. So that's what I was being groomed for. And after realizing that, I didn't really have an appetite in learning in the classroom, I'm a much more creative, outside-of-the-box thinker, I started this company. And it's not like I dropped out of high school, then started it. I'd already had it in my bedroom, had 6 figures in my bank account in less than 3 months, and showed it to them to let them realize that, hey, this is like my dream, and it could actually, as long as it's legitimate, it could actually learn it, become something.
And that was one of the interesting parts about your book, was his concern and your parents' concern. Was this legal, what you're doing, right?
Yeah, not too many 16-year-olds come to their parents about that much money, and it ends up becoming the a legitimate cause. But I think after I convinced them, they realized that I wasn't going to get into trouble.
So then, several years later, you started Bluelift. Can you tell us about what Bluelift did and how that progressed?
Sure. I had a 3-year non-compete, so I stayed with ValueClick after I sold Click Agents for about 1.5 years, and did a bunch of other things in the last 1.5 years, and realized that the post-dot-com bubble, the ad market really hadn't changed. And a lot of the ideas I wanted to incorporate really weren't in there. And behavioral advertising and targeting were in its infancy. So, looked at kind of with the basic idea of getting back into business, competing with, I guess, my former company, with having a behavioral component to it. And, I think that's one of my key philosophies in business, is that you never need to start with an idea of an end product. You just need a beginning idea. And my beginning idea was I wanted to get back into business and just compete, and have several innovations behind it. But at the end of the day, what ended up becoming Bluelift was a very big behavioral advertising network 3.5 years into it. But I would never say that was like the original goal.
Okay. And you did sell it to Yahoo for a lot of money.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that, about the day in 2007 when you sold
Sure.
it?
October 2007 is when we closed the deal, announced it in September, and the market was consolidating, and I had convinced my board that we should probably do a market check and seeing if there's any interesting corporate development opportunities, which led to the deal with Yahoo, which was a $300 million cash deal. And within those assets, we became one of the largest ad networks globally. I stayed on for 4 months, and since then, Bluelift's been absorbed into the Yahoo ad network.
And so then you decided to come back and do it again. A lot of people might have decided just to retire at that point. Why did you want to do a startup again?
I think if you kind of look at it where it was already it was a matter of time. When I was 18, I was a millionaire, and most people think that having that much money requires retirement, but I wasn't going to retire at 18 or 21. And I'm only 27, but at the end of the day, I never do anything for the money. And I think that's by default the end goal. I'm always about the journey. I'm always about creating something, and once you create something of significant value, you get options such as taking it public or getting it bought. And this was just one of that at the end of it.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about gWallet?
Sure. Well, one of the main things that's changed between 2007 and, I guess, 2010, so the last time I was in business and now, is, social media was more or less nice to have. In 2007, it was kind of like the cool thing to do. And now it's kind of the necessity, where where everybody kind of, the behavior has changed, where social media has changed the way we surf the internet and spend time and so forth. So one of the phenomenons has been social gaming, in the way that companies like Zynga and so forth have thrived around getting people to play their games online inside a social atmosphere such as Facebook. And part of that requires monetization. So, you know, our first product has been around monetizing these social games through offers. So we will have someone like a JCPenney or a Nike or a major brand, basically, like Axe, put up a commercial for 2 to 3 minutes where somebody interacts with their ad, watches the video. It's an extended session versus what you might see on TV. And if they like it, become a fan or Twitter about it. And as part of that, they get a small microtransaction of a currency, let's say 10 cents in the game or 15 cents in the game. So it provides a way for the game to get monetized. It provides the consumer with currency to play in the game. And, you know, it's more or less an ad model for us to monetize these games. And just in the span of 2 years, it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar industry. So it continues to grow as, you know, the phenomenon continues to resonate.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.